And now back to your regular programming.
If you speak better to yourself.
You showed up for probably the dumbest conversation we've ever had on this show.
Let's have that smile again.
Tell me how that happens. Physically should not happen.
Relax.
If you say
Give me as well.
3 times a day, God will line it up.
He's just an absolute hack, and he gets his ass kicked by the teammates every week. It's just terrible.
Sean, the national championship is set. Orange Bowl, Cotton Bowl is behind us. It has been an exciting up and down college football playoff experience. We're going to be breaking down both outcomes on today's show. Before we get there, can you tell our listeners about BetOnline?
Yeah, they continue to be the world's most trusted betting platform, and I continue to be the world's most trusted Notre Dame football
All right,
bettor.
shut up. Shut up.
I cannot believe the streak continues. The fellas win. The fellas cover. They make me money. I am the good luck charm, and I am never acknowledged by the group. It's fine.
You need to be put in check.
It's a big club, and you're not in it. You haven't been to South Bend. I'm Sean Carlin for BetOnline. Awful. With the largest selection of odds and everything: football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC. BetOnline, number one sports betting source for the new year. Wildcard weekend, second best weekend of NFL betting. It's next week. Divisional weekend, best weekend of football that we're going to get all season, best teams playing best teams. So this is where we start gearing up. Load the account with some winners this weekend. Carry it into next weekend. Have yourself a good January. Save yourself. Create some joy. BetOnline. The game starts here.
Sean, let's start talking about the Orange Bowl. I was at the game. I was in Miami. Easily the best game that I've ever been to in person. Started a little slow. A lot of people were complaining about the quarterback play. Second half ends up living up to the hype. Complete banger, back and forth, momentum shifting on either side. I don't think there were enough times throughout the second half where it felt like either team was going to win it. And the vibes in the stadium were constantly swinging back and forth between Penn State and Notre Dame. Biggest thing for me is that Marcus Freeman knew how to rally the guys in an adverse situation. They were in a spot where they were staring down elimination. Ryan Leonard throws one of the stupidest interceptions that I've watched, throwing to a defensive lineman. Don't really even truly know where he was trying to put that football. And they're able to pull out one of their own game-changing interceptions. They were able to get stops necessary when they needed them. They were able to convert and produce big plays in the second half that were able to set them up in a position to win. And then Mitch Jeter just pushes the ball through the uprights right the way he needed to, when apparently every single other kicker in that situation in the college football playoff was 0-4. Broadcast tried to jinx the shit out of him. I've brought up many times the impact this has for me as a Notre Dame fan. And it just continues to get better and better every single week as they're now playing for a national championship that I'm hoping that they show up for, and that this isn't all just a fool's errand where we're all building up excitement and building up hype only to get bludgeoned. But at least knowing that there were multiple difficult steps for them to prove their worth, and the expanded playoff has allowed them to reestablish themselves as one of the premier brands in college football, regardless of what happens in the national championship.
You know, this game was fun, right? We could say it was fun, but the whole time I'm watching it, and I'm wondering, where's the SEC? Wouldn't this be better if it was Ole Miss? Wouldn't it be better if it was Alabama playing? Like, wouldn't that just be better, Joe, than seeing Notre Dame versus Penn State? Am I beating the dead horse a little bit? That's how it feels, SEC fans. Fantastic game. Great theater. Both quarterbacks tried to give the game away, which is my favorite brand of football, where all other players are playing their asses off. Running backs, offensive linemen, linebackers crashing down, hitting. Crazy non-penalty calls in the end zone. That should have been a pick for Notre Dame. I'll give it to you.
So you agreed with me on that?
That was a ridiculous call in the end zone. It gave everything.
Sticks his arm up and opens his chest up to move out of the way and also turn to the football. That is one of the softest pass interference calls I've ever seen.
It was ridiculous. I mean, there was so much drama. It was Notre Dame's going to win this. Notre Dame takes a big sack on third down. They have to punt. Now it's overtime. Now it's not overtime. Star players. Jeremiah Love, legit star in the making. Tyler Warren, star going on to the NFL, going to be great there. Nicholas Singleton, star. Everyone was playing their asses off, and the two dunderhead quarterbacks were just being dunderhead quarterbacks, which I loved. Like it was just a great representation of college football where there wasn't a world beater.
Right, there's no Joe Burrow who's going out there slanging it, and then the other dude is helpless. Kind of like it was Oklahoma that they completely piped down. I think it was Jalen Hurts led Oklahoma, and Jalen Hurts was great that year, but extremely helpless in that game. We didn't get that. We had two quarterbacks who were trying as hard as they could to lose the game.
It was awesome. And everyone else trying hard to win. It was physical. This was a memorable, great CFP game. And it matters that both teams won or had to win 2 games to get here, to have to actually make it to the 4 and put it all on the line. Notre Dame, I've been saying it since the incident. They just had to buckle down and absolutely play as a unit, and they've done that all year. I jest and I joke about the money they've made me, but it's true. I have been riding this team every single week, and I've lied to him.
Sean, how do I make this about myself?
I've lied to Joe on weeks that I haven't bet on them. Because I know he was tense. I've lied to him and said, no, I didn't take them. I took them. I took them every time, every week. And they kept doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, big money, Anderson. Acknowledge
all
me.
All right. No one cares about your betting success.
Oh.
The $4 you made from their bet.
I'm bringing this team to glory.
Okay. Let's stop on that part because I don't want to talk about that. You're going to make me upset. As I said leading into this segment, that being a Notre Dame fan to my entire existence and my entire life, there being enough times throughout it where this game felt like it was lost. Like it just really felt like there's no way that they're going to win. Here we go again. We're back to the square one. We're back to the spot. This was a fraudulent performance. How did we even make it this far? And they snap back and they bounce back. That's just the most rewarding aspect, is to have seen that in person and to have been there for that, and that Notre Dame played this way. The other side of this, Drew Aller played awful. Drew Aller had an awful game. Errant passes, and I find, no one brought this up, I find it kind of hilarious. His inaccuracy culminates on the final play where they tried to run a hook and ladder, and he throws the ball way over, I think it was Nick Singleton's head, just completely airmails it over his head, and the game was over off of that. That was him the entire game. Was so inaccurate where he was putting the ball, to the point where he was trying to dirt the ball on the game-sealing interception. He was trying to dirt the ball at his receiver's feet, and he's so inaccurate, he put the ball right in a spot for Christian Gray to make a play on it, which is insane. I wouldn't have admitted that if I was Drew Aller. I would not have publicly admitted that. I would have said I thought I saw an opening and I trusted my arm. I would have lied through my damn teeth.
Yeah.
I would not have admitted that, hey, I had one of the most inaccurate, awful college football playoff performances that's going to go down in infamy, and I could not place the ball for, on the ground of all places. That was how inaccurate I was. I don't get why Andy Kotelnicki has lived in this world where he thinks he needs to prove how good Aller is. He's constantly just trying to be like, you know what, this dude is going to be a first overall pick, and I'm going to show the world. Tyler Warren was unstoppable. Yeah. It was every time he caught a pass, the Notre Dame fans, the energy was sucked out of the stadium. Nick Singleton couldn't be stopped in the red zone. Katron Allen couldn't be stopped. They were getting huge chunks of yards every time all three of them touched the football. But to the point where when Tyler Warren went out, people were also hopeful that he was done for the game. Like that was what the commotion was. I don't know why, after seeing all that wasn't just the decision making every single play.
Yeah, Aller. And I've been texting with other quarterbacks about this actually, about Aller. Don't worry about
Vito.
You know what? I just said other quarterbacks because other quarterbacks were rather critical of Aller. But yeah, no, Aller isn't a quarterback. Aller had 2 paths he could have gone, and he chose the wrong third option, which was try to be a first overall quarterback, first pick overall.
Which he still
gunslinger.
can be.
No, he can't. He's not a quarterback.
You have no desire to let these kids grow and develop and improve.
I would have loved
So
to
it's
see
like
Drew
F him, he's done.
Allard improve as a left fielder. He would have been a fantastic baseball player. He's got the cannon. He's got the athleticism. He's got the hip flexibility. And I bet he can swing the bat. He's not a quarterback, though. He could also, if he wanted to do Project Tebow and be big, strong Drew Allard, get in the weight room, and we're just going to run it. I'm going to throw with dog shit form, and we're going to get by with some trickery. They could have done that. But no, trying to run pro-style Kotelnicki offense or whatever his offense is with Allard doesn't work. It hasn't worked all year. I've pointed it out all year. He doesn't have that gene, whether it's decision-making to accuracy or just decision-making in general. It's not working for him. And the hype, I got the hype this year. I felt the hype. And they overperformed, in my opinion. Penn State did. But he's capped. I don't know what the first thing technically I would try to fix with him. Is it his feet? Sometimes they look good. Sometimes it looks like he's playing quarterback in sand. Is it his arm slot? Sometimes it's sidearm. Sometimes it's too over the top. He just can't put it all together where some quarterbacks naturally, like let's just even look at the other side of the table here. Riley Leonard didn't play a great game, but for most of the game, he looked like a quarterback. Like his drop back looks like a quarterback. Throwing it looks like a quarterback. When he decides to run up the middle, looks like a quarterback, not frazzled, scrambled all over the place. Bad picks, 2 bad picks, whatever. He still has that gene. You can tell he does. Allard doesn't. And Penn State's stubbornness, their refusal to just buy in and be Iowa with the best team that Iowa would have fielded in the last 50 years if Penn State roster was in that yellow and black. Run the rock hard. Use your tight ends. It's not a quarterback takeover team. It's a quarterback distribute team. That's all it needed to be, and they just pushed the envelope way too far.
Well, and I pointed this out. I can't find Drew Allard's baseball stats. I pointed this out. Concussed Riley Leonard, who he stood up like he was drunk after he got hit the way that he did. I was shocked that he actually went back into the game at the start of the third quarter. Concussed Riley Leonard was more accurate than Drew Allard was. And I had a couple people that were like, what the hell are you talking about? I had some people that chimed in and were like, oh man, these takes are going to be wrong. And they just continued to be re-supported by awful throws by Drew Allard. Concussed Riley Leonard was more accurate than him and was a better decision maker.
Steve Angeli more accurate than him. And I'd say,
man, you put some respect on peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah. Oh no,
that's what they call it, peanut butter and jelly time. That's what the fans call him.
Vito said Angeli looked better than Leonard at times in this game.
He did. I actually felt pretty good. If he started the third quarter, I was kind of thinking it's the circumstance that we bring up often where you bring in a quarterback that's a completely different style in the second. Oh, so you are outing Vito, by the way.
Yeah, I'll out Vito.
You bring in another quarterback, completely different style that the opposing team didn't prepare for. That was why they were able to move the ball down the field on that drive in order to get a field goal right before the first half ended. Is that I think that the game preparation was like, what the heck are we expecting from him? Now, the detraction was he has some of the worst blindside awareness that I've seen from a quarterback because he just doesn't have the reps, and he almost got completely smoked to the degree where the ball got turned over multiple times. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was taking much for him to be more accurate than Allard and Leonard, though.
I gotcha. I loved how physical the game was. Quarterbacks getting lit up. The awesome tackle on punt team from Notre Dame was great. A question that I asked you over Twitter, and I'm hoping to still get the question. The Penn State kicker, I have great intrigue still.
Oh, did I not respond to you?
How big is he in real life?
I got to see when they kicked off at the start of the third quarter. I mean, he's as big as a tight end.
Okay,
he's a house. He is. He's not your normal kicker. You see him immediately. As soon as I saw that message from you, I'm like, where is he? I looked up and I immediately spotted him on the sideline. I'm like, that was way too easy to find him.
That makes me really happy because I remember going to the
house.
I remember going to the Georgia Dome when they were playing the then Washington Redskins, and I looked on the field and I saw Albert Hainsworth taking pregame reps. He was as big as two humans next to each other, like two professional, and it has stuck with me since. So seeing the guys on TV that look like freaks in person, I always love getting updates on that. Good win, though. Hey, good win. We're all in it together here. Come on. Now, give me a little bit here.
Abrupt close change. Cotton Bowl. Sean, let's talk about the Cotton Bowl here. Ohio State prevails in a back-and-forth battle ending in the most barnyard way possible 28-14, they hold off the Texas Longhorns. I thought this thing was going to go into overtime. I really thought that this game was going to end up being a really high-scoring overtime battle with the way that Texas marched down on what was their final real offensive drive before Quinn Ewers threw a really lame interception to Caleb Downs. Awful play calling. Really stupid, predictable play calling, running the ball and bringing your heavy package in against a team that is amazing at stopping the run up the middle, and then calling a pitch that didn't work inevitably leads to a 4th down strip sack and a long return for Jack Sawyer, who brings it back for a touchdown. This is just the epitome of Quinn Ewers and the epitome of Texas this year, where it felt like there were so many opportunities for them to finish, and they couldn't do it.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to try to rationalize this Quinn Ewers game. The missed balls were very bad. Not an awful stat line, forcing a ball late for the pick, whatever. That the last minute pick doesn't mean much to me. This was a Sark and offense situation all game that I had issues with for Texas. You got a 6'8", 280-pound, a little bit exaggerating there, quarterback in Will Howard, and you would hope that when you're on the goal line on the 1, maybe we put him under center, and if we're going to do a pitch, we at least give the guys of a quarterback sneak or up the middle handoff. But no, it's shotgun at the goal line. Infuriating stuff. I just don't get it. I played football my whole life. Goal line situations always better if you can go under center. I know that you want the diverse package and threat of the pass, but if you really want to run one in, go under center. The Texas offense all night, disaster, and you were waiting for them to maybe break one. They had mistakes, they had crucial drops. It just did not get put together. And Ohio State, who didn't play their cleanest game by any means, was able to just keep them at arm's length, arm's distance, and say, "Oh, you're just not going to crawl back in it with us. We're going to slop it up a bit, score about a touchdown a quarter, and you're not going to be able to keep pace because your offense can't get out of its own way, and your quarterback can't stop overthrowing their receivers."
Well, both games were, or not both games, both teams super sloppy. They both played really sloppy, especially in the second half. There were turnovers, there were silly late penalties, just a lot of dumb, stupid plays that accumulated to the point where this was as low scoring as it was. It didn't matter, though, because all it took was that awful play by Quinn Ewers at the end of this. And not to like dig into him too much, bad ball security. I tweeted this out, that Quinn Ewers, what kept them in this game and in a position to maybe win it was the fact that he hadn't turned the ball over. There was no back-breaking interception. There was no back-breaking fumble. And there it was in the most important situation on 4th down, where if he had just fallen over and went down or thrown the ball out of bounds, there was still a shot for them to get back into the game. You get a stop, you get the ball back, you march down, you tie the game. But instead, the situational awareness and the inability to make the right play, it has been Quinn Ewers' career, except for the Alabama game. And that's the only time that I can think of that he actually did step up to the plate.
Yeah, there was a lot that he could have done on that 4th down. He could have thrown a jump ball. He could have just got it out of his hands and maybe drawn a PI. He could have drawn a roughing the passer. Sawyer was all over him. Like, there were options if he couldn't even complete the pass that would at least give hope. But if I'm a Texas fan, the one play that is sticking with me eternally, and at least the most for the offseason, is the before half lackadaisical give it up touchdown to Travion Henderson on a screen pass. That was a piston in the wind screen play call to just try to get out of half, get some chunk yardage. Fine, it's easy. We'll get a completion. We'll get Travion in the mix in the pass game. We don't think we're going to bust it. What do? 75 yards to the house, and we have the lead at half instead of it being 7-7. It was a lack of focus. It was a team that was looking to get into the locker room. I've seen it all year. These teams that lose, how could we even lose? Because you didn't play a full 60 minutes. A lot of fans conflate full 60 minutes with the end of the 4th quarter or the beginning of the halves. No, the most important is the last 2 minutes of the first half, in my opinion, because that's where you see these garbage scores, these chunk plays get added up. You either get a late time field goal or a crazy touchdown with 10 seconds left in the first half. You're sitting here wondering, how could we come out in a deficit? Because your players and your coaches were looking to the locker room. That's exactly what Texas was doing. It was unbelievable that Ohio State had a lead going into the second half. They shouldn't have. It would have been much closer if they didn't have it. But that's how we looked at this Texas team all year. Underperforming, underachieving, had all the talent in the world, but couldn't get out of their own way.
I think one thing, though, that is clear for the implications of the national championship, this Ohio State team looked much more human than we thought that they were. They were on just a Death Star type run where they looked unbeatable. They looked like they were so well-rounded, and all the momentum was just, the air was sucked out of them. It just wasn't there, that same intensity and tenacity up until the Jack Sawyer return touchdown. That was when it felt like they kind of regained that swagger, but they looked like the version of Ohio State that lost to Michigan and almost lost to Penn State and lost to Oregon. They looked like the flawed version that was banged up and was dealing with offensive line injuries, all of that. I'm not saying this to say to like completely rationalize, like, hey, I think Notre Dame wins a national championship. I think it's a lot more complex than that. But in that vein, I don't think Notre Dame fans should be looking at that matchup and just thinking, man, we're screwed. We're going to get smoked. Like I originally proclaimed, assuming and hoping that that was going to be the matchup.
I'm going to set an initial reaction line for the championship game in a moment, and I want to get your reaction to it.
Okay.
But Texas's defensive backfield played stellar. They've had I think is probably the strongest point of their defense, holding Jeremiah Smith to 1 catch for 3 yards, Emeka Ibuka 5 catches, 51. Like they played their asses off, and they just couldn't get any help from the offense in this one. It was brutal. My championship line that I'm setting right now, Joe, tell me if this is unfair. Ohio State 4.5 favorites.
No, I don't think that's actually.
That's the line that I would. That's my line that I'm setting right now before any come out.
I would say it's probably like 3.
I would take 3.5, 4.5, or 3. I think all those are fair.
I think with how poorly they played, it's probably like 2.5, 3. 4.5 is not a bad line.
Texas has a good defense, man. You have to say they have a fine defense.
Notre Dame doesn't.
They do.
Notre Dame's secondary is better than Texas's secondary.
Yeah, but Notre Dame also has a little more talent on the offensive side, at least in the receiving room. If we want to go band for band with running backs and say Jeremiah Love versus Henderson or Judkins, I would entertain that thought. But I think the ability for Ohio State to build up a quick lead is enough for me to give them a favorite and a hook.
That's fair. I had pointed this out to you. I'm not going to specifically to disclose which host this is because I'm trying to be fully I'm not fully above the pettiness, but like partially above the pettiness of me making this statement. I always subscribe to the belief of worry about yourself and the rest will take care of it. You can't control the outcome of what other people are doing. It's better not to get frustrated by other people and the amount of work that they put in. But I noticed yesterday that there was a national host for a reputable brand that hosts a national college football show that tweeted once during the semifinal round of the college football playoff. And all it was just a really simplified, stupid statement after the game about Marcus Freeman. Very clearly didn't watch the game. I went and listened to part of their show. Very clearly read off of a box score and did not watch the game. And based on the fact that they tweeted once at the end of the game, and before that it was 10 hours before their last tweet, I just have to bring this up. This pisses me off. As somebody, and I try not to talk about this stuff. I never talk about this stuff on the show or on Twitter. I almost even made a tweet about it, but I just wanted to gripe about it on this show. It is astounding to me that opportunities are handed to individuals like this. And like the amount of plugged inness that you and I have, I generated I hear myself saying this and I almost hate that I have to like do this and talk like this
to qualify.
But like I generated like 100,000 impressions yesterday. I have 2 tweets that have over 2,000 likes, and here I am sitting and producing. And this individual gets to host a show. It's like, what? They're the same age as us. Like, what the F? Like, this is the world that we live in, that opportunities are handed to people who just give a little bit of a shit, not the people who give every ounce of effort and energy that they place into covering the entire sport of football. I know that you share the same sentiment as me. It's nauseating.
The bare minimum effort is watching the games, is watching all the games. And then the one step above that, tweeting about the games, posting about the games, getting in the mix.
If you're covering the sport, you have to be. I'm not asking for 100 tweets.
Yeah.
Just give me 5. Not at the end of the game when the game's over.
I don't need a person posting in-game film breakdowns. I don't need all that. But be in the mix. Be aware of the narratives. Be aware. Have something you can build off on the show. How many times do we come on the show and because we're in the mix, social media, watching the game, hearing the discourse, we're able to see how the national vibe is about this game, build our own thoughts off of it, be able to construct our own thoughts from watching the game, provide, and that's what makes shows unique, is everyone is going to view it a little bit differently. But you know what doesn't make a show unique and makes it milquetoast, boring, just complete mail it in, hack radio stuff, is if you don't watch the game, if you don't participate. And I'm not saying I'm here calling every first down play good or bad or ugly, but if you're in the mix, you can comment. You can actually feel like you're participating and putting together a good product.
Yeah.
And seeing lack of effort or apathy or I really don't care about how I speak about this game. It doesn't matter to me, but it's my job to talk about it. If you're like, it should still feel like a privilege to be able to be hired by a network and to be able to talk about these games, react about them, go back and forth, bust balls, whatever it is. It should still feel like a privilege to be able to do so. And seeing others take it for granted is very, very frustrating.
The way that I frame it is that if you're employed to be covering, and like I'm not fully employed, we do this independently and freelance, and I'm lucky enough that Rufino and Joe and the other some of the other endeavors that I have are enough for me to make money off of doing this, that I can keep doing and then continue to build on it. But I'd love to be represented by a larger network, and those opportunities just don't come to fruition because they're handed out to these individuals that stink and put in the bare minimum. The thing that bothers me is that if you're supposed to be hosting a show, you're supposed to be a driver of conversation. You're supposed to be somebody that is pulling people in to your thoughts so that they tune into the show and then want to provide part of the commentary. To just put in the bare absolute minimum to provide a singular comment after the game is over is what pisses me off. And I said this to you yesterday. Legacy media is dead. This is why people talk about this all the time, that the ownership of all of these legacy brands that, and even not like the true legacy ones, like the up and coming recent brands that are across the market that are available to everybody, they are not hiring the right hosts that are actually enthusiastic and excited to be a part of leading the conversation. It feels like that there is an increasing number of hosts that are being placed in these situations that feel entitled by the fact that, like what you said, this is my job. Anyone who expects more of that from me, it's outside of my 9 to 5, or like, why would I be tweeting during the game? I'm just going to sit there and watch it. You should be constantly excited and grateful for the opportunity to part of your, even if you're not paid hourly, to sit there and tweet during a game. You should feel more than privileged to be able to sit there and to drive said conversations. Yeah,
it's ridiculous, and sometimes I feel like it's not even the person's fault, the host's fault. It's a management's fault for not understanding the audience, not understanding who the football fan is, trying to get more outreach to different sects. Okay, a different sect of maybe sports fandom might tune in, but who butters your bread? It's the sicko, diehard college football fan that in between plays is scanning. They're scanning. They're looking for something. They're looking for something to bite on. They're looking for something to build off of. And I don't understand decisions that are made. I don't understand approaches that are made with show coverage. I'm not saying, and this is coming from two people that don't put, at least I don't think you do, put ourselves above the game. And people that get hired think that they are above the sport itself. There are players that play that get forgotten. And you think you taking a selfie at the game is more important than the players on the field?
The shit out of me. I don't want to go down this too big of a rabbit hole, but that's always the one. It's like, hey, can you get a picture of me under the confetti? It's like, huh? You didn't win the game. You didn't win the game. Why are you acting like you're a part of the post-game celebration? It's
people get resentful the longer that they're in the industry, and they realize nobody's coming here. Nobody's going to show me the amount of love that the athletes are shown. Rightfully so. You're not the athlete. You're not performing a miracle feat. You're not sacking Riley Leonard on 3rd and 6 with 2 minutes left in the Sugar Bowl. You're making a TikTok, asking questions before the game. It's so baffling. I think people need that understand that it's about the game. The athletes and the sport will continue to just incrementally evolve within the sports media, develop and be able to cover it, pick up stories, pick up narratives. And these other people, it's just a weird narcissism plague that's going through. And I just don't know what the resolution is or where the rubber meets the road eventually.
Well, there's a reason why independent creators are more successful than people realize. And the path is just creating really compelling independent content. That's the reality of it. And it kind of almost makes me wonder day in and day out, like, even if I was able to build myself up enough to be provided an opportunity to work at one of those companies, does it really make sense? Am I then being hamstrung by, I don't know.
You get lost in the sauce.
Probably.
Yeah.
I hope that our listeners that come back every single week and anyone who follows me on Twitter appreciates that I'm not said individual that tweeted once during the game, and that I'm actually excited and happy to be a part of the conversation and being a driving force for it. But that's going to be it from us, folks. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening to us yell for a little bit at the end here. At Joe DeLeone, at Sanderson Radio, at Hack City Pod. We'll talk to you folks later.